Well, God called me into working with women who have unplanned pregnancies, women and their families who have unplanned pregnancies. And he prepared me for it. He always prepares you for everything that he calls you to do, which is a beautiful lesson that I've learned as I look back on my life. You know, I feel called, and then I think, what do I have to bring to that? I'm not equipped. I'm not experienced in that. I don't have the education or the training. In fact, when I first felt called to work with unintended pregnancies, unplanned pregnancies, and women with unplanned pregnancies, I thought, well, maybe then I should have prepared, maybe I should be a doctor, you know, if I'm going to do that, or maybe I need to be a licensed counselor. But in reality, I didn't need to be those things. I could be myself. and then I realized how God had prepared me along the way for that. In my own life, you know, I think an important lesson to be learned is that in a way, there's no such thing as an unplanned pregnancy, because God planned every one. God planned every person. Every person was created by him, made in his own image and likeness. So we need to help women who think they have an unplanned pregnancy understand that God has a plan for that child. God has a plan for them that relates to that child. So he taught me that early on in my life, because, you know, most people, when they're, particularly women, I think, presume that someday they will have children. And particularly, like in my case, if they're intending to get married and they're from a family where children have been a blessing and they have cousins and a big wonderful family, they just think that that will be the case in their life as well. And sometimes we tend to think that our fertility is something we can turn off and turn on, and we can control it. In reality, it's much, much more complex than that. I found out early on in my marriage to my husband. We've been married now for 43 years, which is a tremendous blessing. We were high school sweethearts, and God intended for that relationship to develop. And of course, now he's blessed us with 43 years of marriage. But we didn't have children right away, and that was a shock. You know, that was a surprise. Well, now it's time to have children. Why aren't I getting pregnant? And I discovered that we, my husband and I together, had an infertility problem. That is very, very common in the world today. And I came to realize very early on that fertility is a blessing. You know, being able to have a child is a blessing, both for men and for women. But again, if God didn't intend that for you, if there's some reason that you can't get pregnant, well, there again is God's plan. And what he provided for my husband and me was the blessing of 2 adopted children that we adopted as infants. I came to realize that those unintended pregnancies or unplanned pregnancies for the mothers of our 2 children were part of God's plan for my husband and me to have a family. And so it was all part of what he had in mind and what he intended. And I'm so grateful and thankful to the birth mothers of our 2 children that they understood the value of those little babies that they were carrying, that they made the decision for life. They could have had abortions. Abortion was legal when our children were born. But their mothers made that loving, unselfish choice to provide a family that they couldn't provide for their children. My husband and I were the beneficiaries of that, and our family was made through God's plan of adoption. And we're all adopted sons and daughters of the Lord. Adoption is a beautiful plan.